Well, there it is. That's what started it all. 77 Ford F-250. Started out, had a 306, new process 4-speed, and a 205 transfer case. In 1993, I had a toddler and I was driving a Ford Ranger with a carburetor. There was no room. The Ranger got about 10 miles a gallon, and I decided, you know what, I need something a little bigger. So I bought this 77 Ford. It was pretty well rotted out. Spent most of its life underneath a pine tree. The hood was all pitted, the roof was all pitted, and the bed was shot. Well, I fixed it up, and a buddy of mine painted it. About my son turned 15 years old. I says, well, he's going to need something to drive here in a year, so I give it to him. At that point, he drove it 2 years to high school. About 8, 9 years ago, we decided, well, everybody's putting 4BT Cummins in everything. I was thinking, He said, Dad, I want a diesel in my truck. Well, there it is. It's a 92 4BT Cummins. It come out of a bread truck. I got a hold of some guys that worked at Schwabel's. They had 2 bread trucks. Both had 4-cylinder Cummins. Both had 4-speed Borg-Warner T19 transmissions in them, Ford bell housings. I went down one rainy Saturday morning. We pulled both motors out. And they were this one didn't have an injection pump. It was basically parts. The other one was a complete engine and it run. So I put the runner engine in this truck. We made motor mounts. I removed the cross member there, made a straight one. These are the bread truck motor mounts. I went and bought a small block Ford 90s era ZF 5-speed. We made it to the back of it because it had the small block Ford bell housing. The guys from Schwabel's, they says, well, you got to be careful. Don't put anything in there other than a center force clutch. He says, you'll just tear it up. So we did next best thing. We put a Napa clutch in it. And that was good for a year or so. It's got a hydro boost. There's a hydro boost. That was from the bread truck. Got the power steering pump mounted to the motor. There's no vacuum at all on this truck. Nothing vacuum operated. GM alternator. I don't know, I think he's got 4-inch exhaust on it. Now it's a monster. But anyhow, the guys from Schwabel said don't put anything other than a center force clutch in it. Well, my son graduated from high school and drove it all through his junior and senior year. His senior year, he took this motor, which was missing the fuel pump, took it out to the career center and cleaned it all up, rebuilt it for his project, and he pulled it all down and said, Dad, this thing doesn't have any miles on it. I said, what do you mean? Both them bread trucks had over 200,000 on them. He said, "Dad, that's a Cummins Recon engine." So the motor without the fuel pump was the best deal of it all, because I paid $400 for it and $1,000 for the running motor. So after he was out of high school, he put the rebuilt one in, put the injection pump off the runner on the rebuilt motor, and there it is. He drove it to college, and he went to college in Lima, Ohio. One night he calls me up. He says, "Dad," he says, "I push the clutch in and put my truck in gear and it won't move." I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Yeah, it won't move." I says, "Won't move a little bit?" He says, "No, it won't move at all." So he got a ride home from the other side of the state. Next week he took my truck out in a flat trailer and come back with it. We pulled it apart. Sure enough, them guys from Swable's were right. You better put a center force clutch in it or you'll rip the center right out of them. For a long time, it never had a fan on it. We used the stock 300 6-cylinder radiator, moved it back and put that aftercooler in there, but for a long time it didn't have a fan until he decided to take it cruising. One of the local car shows had a cruise in. When you're sitting in traffic idling along, the damn thing would overheat, but he drove it all the way to Lima and the dang thing never overheated without a radiator or without a fan. But it's been around a long time. He dolled it all up like a kid would. A 5-speed in it with still got the new process transfer case. Got Dana 44 front axle and 60 rear axle, but this was all about 8 years ago we did the conversion. Then about 3 years ago, I had this 93 Ford. I bought it in 97, but it had a 7.3 IDI in it with a 5-speed. About 3 years ago, I decided, you know what, that 7.3, because I had to put a turbo on it to get any power out of it. And I decided that 7.3 just leaked too much for me, because once you turbocharge them things, they got too much blow by. They're crazy. Then the neighbor had a 5.9 out of a bus, a Freightliner bus, and he was to put it in his Massey Ferguson combine. And the machine shop told me, he says, that 5.9's different from that one in that Massey combine, because it'll never hold up. You better just rebuild the one out of the combine. So he had this thing sitting there and he had it all tore apart, and of course I went down and got it on the tractor because it was on a skid in pieces. I rebuilt it top to bottom, rebuilt the injection pump, rebuilt the turbo, and rebuilt the injectors. I think I put rings in it and bearings in the bottom end, but it's basically stock. I haven't done anything. I think I put one of them ground off fuel plates in it, in the AFC housing there. And I think I've got a couple of degrees of pump timing on it instead of 12. I think it's at 15. But it has a Dodge power steering pump and a Dodge vacuum pump because I'm running vacuum brakes. And of course it's got a diesel conversion specialist bell housing adapter and a ZF 5-speed that was stock in the truck. I had to shorten the drive shaft 2 inches and move the engine back, or the transmission back 2 inches, so that I had enough room, and there's hardly enough room there to get that little Flexolite fan in. But diesel conversions, they wanted to put electric fans on it, and I said, nah, we ain't doing that. But it uses with that bell housing adapter, it uses a 6-liter Ford diesel starter, and you don't have to grind any of the bell housing or grind any of the motor away to get that starter to fit. And it's aftercooled. I think it's got a 99 Ford aftercooler in it in front of the radiator. The truck sits most of the winter, so it doesn't see much road salt in northeastern Ohio. My biggest complaint about it is Ford's better idea was that twin I-beam suspension, which likes to wear out tires. But other than that, I like it. It's a nice truck. This one still hasn't gone anywhere. He's got the alternator on it and air conditioner and things like that, but he's a long way from firing it, so here it sits. Battery tray full of tools. Wonder why I can't find anything. There's the fourth one. It's a 93 L700. Got a 5.9 Cummins and a 6-speed Eaton transmission. It's got 176 cabbed axle length, and that's an 18-foot grain bed on there. There's my M2 Gleaner, John Deere tractor, but this isn't the one that has the loader on it. I bought this truck 3 years ago just to haul grain. And the only reason I bought it is it had a 5.9 Cummins. And the only part I regret about it is it doesn't have air brakes. It's got hydraulic brakes, which to this day hasn't let me down. Power steering. Big old honking air cooler on the front of it. And who knows, it's got over 250,000 miles on it. I don't know if you can see that, but it was a Pocahontas food service truck, or it had a reefer bed with a refrigerator on it. It was a long truck. I cut pretty near 6 feet off the back of the frame just so I can put the bed on. Keep the bed where it was, but it's still a long truck. Like I say, the only thing I regret is it doesn't have air brakes, but everybody says, well, cut the axle loose and move forward. I know, well, I ain't gonna do all that if the truck doesn't have air brakes. It is what it is, and it does a good job. It's just like driving a school bus. And this is for JC. This is what the bed come off of. It's a 65 International with a 345 and a 5 and a 2. I got a title for it, but it's a Pennsylvania title, and the holder of the title's deceased. But it is what it is. It'll probably never go anywhere. It runs. Put a battery in it. There's some gas at it. She'll start and run. I did haul one load of corn with that in the bed. So. Yeah, well, there's my next project. Either that one or that one. You got camshafts, crankshafts, and a cylinder head, rockers. And oh, you need to put two of them together. But these are out of school buses, 90s era school buses, 5.9s, 12 valves. Yeah, there's the loader tractor. That's the tractor that puts Cummins in Fords. And this here's my daily driver. It's an 86 Ford F250. Got a solid front axle swap, and it's got a 6.9 liter International Harvester V8 with a Borg Warner T19 behind it, and a Banks turbocharger. It'll be the next one to get a Cummins. And that's a transmission off a 850 John Deere bulldozer. So. All right, that's enough for now. Please comment, subscribe if you want. Thanks.